The Second World War and the occupation by the Nazis was probably the bloodiest experience the French had in their history. While France was still a veritable bulwark in the First World War, engaging the Germans in hopeless trench warfare, the Grande Nation was completely overrun within a few months in the Second World War. But why did France react so passively at the beginning of the war, even though it had an army of several million men? After all, it declared war on Germany immediately after the invasion of Poland, whereupon everyone expected a major Allied offensive in the West. But in fact, almost nothing happened. Instead, the so-called Sitzkrieg followed for months, in which it was actually just waiting until Germany had gathered all its troops in the West to overrun France in a huge offensive. Why didn't the French attack Germany in the year 1939 when it was busy in the East? And how would such an offensive have changed the course of history? We look at all these fascinating questions in today's video. It is the 1st of September in the year 1939. Early in the morning, Germany invades Poland, heralding the beginning of the Second World War. As a direct consequence, France and the United Kingdom declare war on the German Reich on the 3rd of September on the basis of their declaration of guarantee for Poland. In the year 1921, France and Poland had already concluded a defense alliance against Germany in the event of war. And in the course of this, a sophisticated plan was developed as to how France was to react in the event of a Polish invasion. The plan, known as the Saar Offensive, envisaged a major attack on the Western Front in which France would advance as deep as possible into German territory and thus tie up a large part of the Wehrmacht. The Saar Offensive was indeed carried out, but not on a large scale. As early as the 1st of September, France began with the general mobilization and the deployment of 40 divisions and 400 tanks to the German border, which in reality gave them a 3-to-1 advantage. But the French did not know this and assumed that Germany was holding back a large part of its army for the Western Front. In reality, however, almost all available reserves were deployed in Poland, including 90% of the aircraft, for example. France would therefore have had a great advantage, but instead began what was later called a false offensive. Of the 40 divisions, only 11 advanced. These 11 were quite successful. They were able to advance many kilometers within a few days and conquer many villages. They were even close to Saarbrücken and the Siegfried Line, a defensive wall built by Germany, but then they suddenly stopped. On September 21, the Army Command ordered a complete retreat to the starting position, much to the disgust of many French generals. And that was it in terms of offensive actions, as the planned large-scale attack never took place. Instead, they waited until the Germans attacked. But what had happened? Why were the French so hesitant? There are a number of reasons, but they can all be traced back to the obvious misjudgment of the situation. Firstly, the brutal First World War was still very much in the minds of the French, so that even after the German invasion of Poland, many still hoped for peace with Hitler. They underestimated his huge ambitions and hoped that he would come to his senses after the annexation of Poland. In addition, the French population was very tired of war, so the political leadership wanted to avoid a direct military confrontation with Germany. And so the aim of the French and British was to starve out the enemy with sanctions and a naval blockade. However, as is so often the case, the war was ultimately decided on the battlefield and both sides were too hesitant for a long time. The French relied on their Maginot Line, a gigantic defensive wall that was supposed to keep the Germans out long enough. The French also relied on their defensive doctrine from the First World War, which consisted mainly of trench warfare. But Germany fought differently. Using blitzkrieg tactics, it was able to overcome the rampart at a weakly fortified point with massive tank and air support and advance to Paris in a short space of time with a major offensive. And although the British sent massive reinforcements, the Allies were ultimately encircled. Here we see another problem, namely the sometimes poor coordination between France and Great Britain. There was no unified strategy, which meant that it was too late to react to the rapid German advances. Due to a massive miscalculation, France and Great Britain missed the moment to launch their own major offensive, which could have massively changed the course of the war. Clever German propaganda certainly also played a major role in making Germany appear 1,939 times more powerful than it actually was. At the Nuremberg trials, the German military commander Alfred Jodl said, "If we did not collapse in the year 1939, it was only because during the Polish campaign the approximately 110 French and British divisions in the West remained completely inactive against the 23 German divisions." And General Siegfried Westphal explained that if the French had attacked 1939 in full strength in September, the German army would only have been able to hold out for a week or two.